Hi everyone, welcome to our Arts, Health and Wellbeing webinar. My name's Rosie, I'm the Head of Arts, Health and Wellbeing for the Arts Council of Wales, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to take you through some of the key information about our lottery funding programme, some of the eligibility, and also introduce you to members of the team. This is a re-record of this first part of the webinar, so I won't cover the housekeeping, I'll just go on to the main body. But today we're going to be covering a little bit about the fund. So I'm going to tell you a bit of background about the fund and some of the main information about why we structure the fund the way that we do. Before my colleague Dan, who is a relationship manager for Arts, Health and Wellbeing, is going to take you through some of the key eligibility criteria so you can really think about whether this is the right fund for you to apply for. Kerry, one of the other relationship managers, is going to talk about what makes a good application, and then Eleanor is going to share some top tips, resources and support from Arts Council of Wales. There will be some time for questions towards the end as well. But really, I think the key message that we really want to get across today is that this is quite a complex fund. There are quite a lot of technicalities and eligibility criteria that we set around this fund to recognise that arts, health and wellbeing programmes are quite complex and they're often led by partnerships and collaborations. So we really do encourage you to read the guidance carefully and to contact us in all cases if you're thinking of applying. The details about how to do that will be shared at the end of this webinar. So the purpose of this fund is to support partnerships from across the arts, health, nature, social care and third sectors to provide high quality creative projects that deliver health and wellbeing benefits for the people of Wales. So it really is about that partnership between creativity and health and wellbeing, and that's reflected in at all levels of this fund and in all areas. And that's because we as an Arts Council recognise that arts and creativity have a key role to play, not just in keeping us well and healthy, but also in helping us deal with health challenges. And it's those health challenges and how creativity can solve them that's really at the centre of this fund. The fund launched in 2021 using national lottery funds. So it's national, it's people playing lottery, people playing the national lottery and all the ticket money that comes through that gets awarded directly into funds like this. In 25-26, which is the financial year we're just coming to the end of, we awarded just over £1 million. We expect that to be around 800,000 in the next financial year. But it does vary year on year based on how many people play the lottery and how much they're able to distribute to us. So we don't actually always know fully year to year, but next year we're anticipating around 800,000, but hopefully it might be a bit more. This is a competitive fund. We get between 65 and 80 applications for this fund each year. And the success rate in terms of numbers of applications is between 35 and 45%. So it is oversubscribed. We do receive more applications than we can fund. And so we do have to go through a competitive process of assessing applications really carefully against the criteria. And against some of our quality markers as well to make sure that we and so we can really only fund a proportion of the projects. So today, hopefully, you'll get a little bit more information about what that decision-making process is for us and how you can really put yourself in the best position to be one of those successful applicants. The fund itself is actually split into three different types of projects that we'll fund. And this is really to recognise the life cycle of projects that happen in the arts, health and wellbeing space. And it's really to recognise that projects in this space need time. They need time to lay the groundwork for a good project, to test what works before they go on to those invest and scale levels. So the levels of funding are groundwork and test, where we'll offer up to £15,000 for a project and we'll fund up to 90% of that project. Then we move on to invest, which is up to £35,000 and we'll fund up to 75% of that project. And then we move on to scale, which are really only a handful of projects every year we'll be looking to fund in this space. And that's up to £50,000 per project, but we'll only fund up to 60%. And Dan's going to say a bit more in a second about some of the eligibility around that, but also the match funding. So where that other 40%, for example, for scale should come from. Now, why do we fund in this way and at these different levels? Well, it's really on the back of a programme that the Arts Council funded about 5 years ago now called HARP, Health Arts Research People, which was both a funding and research programme set up to look at how projects in this space can be best set up for success in terms of quality and impact, but also in terms of being able to survive and thrive into the future. So the question we were looking at in HARP was how can you really lay and set the right conditions for these projects from the beginning? And through that project, we came to understand that projects in this space go through this sort of life cycle, and that the groundwork phase is an incredibly important phase where partners from across health and the arts might come together to build a committed partnership, gain a deep understanding of a health challenge, and set themselves some goals before they start actually delivering projects with participants. And that even then they may often go through a sort of testing period where they're trying things out and learning about what works, but also as they're getting to know each other as partners and working out all the complexities of a project, things often change quite quickly and maybe take longer than they think. So we really wanted the funding that we offered in this space to reflect that and to give projects the time and space to do these things really, really well, in order so that when they got to the invest and scale parts of the process, they were set up best for success. So at the invest level, that's really about measuring the impact, where you really know what you want to do with your project, but you want to measure the impact, collect and share the story, and then think carefully about how that project is going to survive long term. The scale process is really about how a project that's been shown to work in one particular area can be taken to new areas or new groups of people. So I'll just say a little more about what we're looking to fund at each of these stages and how you might know which stage you're at with your project. So the groundwork and test grants are really for projects that don't exist yet. So it's where you have an idea that there's a creative art form that may be able to make a difference to people with a particular health challenge, but you're not quite sure how that's going to come together yet. And as a partnership between health and arts, there's a clear health challenge that you want to explore, and there's equal commitment from you both to doing some testing and learning about that. So in this space, the way that we tend to structure it is that we'll offer £5,000 for the groundwork phase. So the sort of activities that we might expect to see there are things like meetings, network meetings, goal setting sessions, coaching sessions, research perhaps, so that you can think about the evidence base for the health challenge that you're trying to tackle. And once you've really gone through that process and set some goals, then we release the rest of the money for you to be able to do some of the testing. And so, yeah, as I say, groundwork is around meetings, researching case studies, perhaps involving some participants in the design of the project. And then testing is really to continue that, but also to bring in things like artist commissioning and delivery costs. When you come to the invest phase, you'll know if you're ready for this phase because you've already tested the idea that you're coming to us for funding for, and you've done that as a partnership. So you know that this is an idea that really does show promise in terms of addressing the health challenge that you set out to address, and you also broadly know the delivery plan and the structure for what you want to do. So if you are in that place, then we can offer between £15,000 and £35,000 with some match funding. And that really is to deliver and measure impact, collect and share the story, and build resources. And so for those sorts of goals, we'll be looking to fund artist commissioning costs for delivery, and a full evaluation as well, which Dan will say a bit more about in a second. But at this stage, we're also happy to fund communications activity, creation of materials, things that are going to help you really share the story of your project, as well as thinking about the future. So thinking about those kind of sustainability goals and future income generation. For scale, this is where you're at if you know that there's been proven impact and uptake of this project in one place, but you now want to explore and test how this project can be adapted to new areas. So this is where we can offer a bit more funding, up to £50,000, but where we also expect a lot more commitment financially from the health partners that you're going to be working with. And there are some elements of sort of relaying the groundwork here in terms of looking at new places and partnerships and adapting goals, but a lot of it is about continuing your ways of working, but with a new patient group or a new participant group or in a new location. So the things that we would expect to fund at this stage, as well as the delivery of the project, are around some of that mapping work to take the project into new places as you adapt. I'm going to pass on to Dan now to talk about some of the eligibility key information. Thank you.
My name is Dan Allen, and I'm one of the Arts, Health and Wellbeing Relationship Managers, and I'm based in South Wales. I'm going to talk through the next few slides, which focus on key eligibility information that you need to know before forming a partnership and starting your application. So as already outlined, your application must consist of an arts partner and a health partner. And if your project has a nature focus, it should also include a nature partner too. You can see on the screen how we define an arts partner. But an arts partner must be an organisation that has the arts at the core of its operations and strategic plans. Individual artists are welcome to be part of a bid, however, they are unable to act as the lead arts partner. And individual artists are often approached to be involved with applications and can equally approach arts and health partners with ideas. Successful bids depend on an arts organisation and a health organisation agreeing the health challenge and then co-designing the creative response to tackle the challenge with artists. These are complex projects, as Rosie said, and the well-being of individual artists is important. We're not looking for individuals to dream up creative ideas in isolation, but to involve them in that process with the support of larger organisational structures. Moving on to the health partner, this could be an NHS health board or trust, a GP cluster, or an organisation providing social care. It could be a third sector organisation whose work focuses strongly on health and well-being, such as Mind Cymru, or a health charity for a specific condition. It could also be a housing association, for example, looking to improve the health and well-being of its residents. We welcome applications from community organisations with an arts practice. As before, it needs to be really clear in their strategic plans that the arts is at the centre of their offer, and we want to understand the artistic quality of the work. If they are to be the health partner, then they need to have an established track record and to be connected into the health and or social care system. A partnership must bring complementary knowledge and skills. If you are unsure whether your organisation or an organisation within your partnership would be recognised as a suitable partner, then please do contact us to discuss before starting your application, and we can provide some further guidance. Moving on to the match funding, applications must meet the requirements regarding match funding. Rosie has already outlined the percentage of match required at each grant level. Match funding is usually best as cash from a health partner, as that helps to lead to longer project sustainability. However, we will accept income from a mixture of other sources, such as trusts and foundations, donations and fundraising activities, cash from arts organisations, as long as it is not other Arts Council of Wales funds, and local authorities, as a few common examples. Up to 10% of the match can be in kind, but this cannot be from the lead applicant. And this could be staff time from a partner organisation or reductions in the cost for hiring spaces. For the evaluation, health is evidence driven, and the evaluation of your project is critical to demonstrate the learning, impact, and importance of your work. You should ensure that all partners are involved in the design of your evaluation. For example, what evidence might a health partner be looking for to be able to support longer term investment? You should have a clear understanding of the evidence base which surrounds your work and demonstrate how your project will contribute to that evidence base and learning across the wider arts and health sector. You may evaluate the work yourself. However, at Invest and Scale, we tend to favour applications where a research, academic, or an evaluation partner brings an external and impartial perspective to your work. There is a requirement that you spend at least 10% of your total budget on the evaluation. As part of the grant, you will be required to attend peer learning groups with other arts, health and wellbeing lottery recipients, and these are delivered by Wahoon. At the end of the project, you will be required to submit a case study on both the Arts Council of Wales funding portal and the Wahoon Case Study Resource Bank on their website.
Helo na, sori, dwi'n mynd i siarad yn Gymraeg. A diolch am yr gwahoddiad i siarad efo chi heddiw. O, fy nodiadau fyny. Sori. Ydy pob yn clywed, pob gallu clywed fi'n siarad Cymraeg yn dallt? Gret, diolch. Gawn ni symud i'r sleid nesaf, please, Rosie. Reit, y cwestiwn da ni'n ofyn yn hyn ydy, be sydd yn neud cais cry a da, a be sy'n mynd i lwyddo yn y rownd? Mae yna lot o wahanol elfennau dod i fewn i greu cais cry. A mae yna gwestiynau eitha clir ar y ffurflen gais, a dyn ni'n gofyn i chi ymateb iddynt. Dwi jyst yn mynd i sôn am 4 elfen, y rhai pwysicaf a rhai fel arfer sydd yn golygu, os di hein ddim yn glir ac yn gry gynnwch chi, fan hyn yn aml mae'r ceisiadau yn disgyn, neu ddim yn llwyddo. A peth gyntaf ydy deall y mynegu her iechyd benodol a'r angen am hynny. Mae'n bwysig bod chi wedi adnabod yr her iechyd perthnasol. Cydnabod mewn ffordd bod yna broblem i ddatrys ac yn aml, ond eto ddim bob tro, gallwn mae adnabyddu'r her iechyd gan y partner iechyd ei hun. Wrth gwrs, mae'r maes iechyd yn enfawr ac yn gallu cynnwys bod matha o fenna o iechyd meddwl, anghydraddoldeb iechyd, iechyd corfforol a lles, a dyn ni hefyd yn licio edrych ar ôl lles staff. Ar gyfer y cais ei hun, fyswn i'n licio clywed am yr her iechyd. Yr effeithiau mae'n gael ar unigolion, da chi'n trio helpu, a hefyd y gymuned, ehangach, a'r sefydliad iechyd. Yn amlwg, mae heriau iechyd yn dod efo cost a angen mwy o adnodda. Felly, trio ffeindio rhyw fath o arbediad a llywyrchiant rili ydyn ni'n trio wneud efo hein. Dwi'n meddwl bod ni'n cael dipyn o drafferthion efo'r cyfieithu. Dwi'n gwybod sut ddylsyn ni gael ymlaen ta be. Lot o... Dwi'n gwybod beth ddylsyn ni'n wneud. O, dwi'n siŵr ni'n i fel. Okay, fine. I'll carry on. Gallwch chi gyrfhau eich achos drwy gyflwyno tystiolaeth, enghraifft am yr her iechyd, enghraifft ystadegau penodol am yr her iechyd, rhannu dargyfyddiadau a astudiaethau blaenorol, neu gysylltu gyda blaenoriaethau iechyd Llywodraeth Cymru, neu fod wedi nodi o fewn gynllun tymor canolig integredig bwrdd iechyd. Yr ail bwynt yn y sleid yma ydy prosiectau wedi gwreiddio mewn partneriaethau. A dyn ni eisiau wedi sôn dipyn amdan y partneriaethau yma, ond be dwi eisiau weld o fewn cais ei hun ydy tystiolaeth o'r partneriaeth yma. A gall hyn ddod drwy lythyron cefnogaeth, wedi cyflwyno'r bapur pennawd, e-byst swyddogol, wedi hyrwyddo gan berson awdurdodol ac wedi dyddio. Da ni hefyd yn gweld byd mawr mewn prosiectau sy'n ceisio gwella iechyd a lles bobl drwy gyrfhau cysylltiad a byd natur. Yn yr achosion hyn, disgwylir bod partner natur wedi ymrwymo i'r prosiect hefyd. Fel ni'n sôn ar gychwyn fy nghyflwyniad, mae yna lot o elfennau'n cyfuno efo'i gilydd fel jigsaw, a dyna pam mae'n wirioneddol da cael arbenigedd o yr gwahanol sefydliadau yma mwyn bod chi'n gallu rhoi sicrhau bod y prosiect ei hun yn mynd i lwyddo a mynd i redeg yn llyfn. Yn y llythyrau cefnogaeth dwi wedi sôn amdanyn nhw, mae rhaid dangos yn glir ymrwymiad i'r cais, boed hyn ariannol neu'n ymarferol neu mewn da. Dylsa y prosiectau yma hefyd fod yn argyhoeddiadol o ran cynnig creadigol clir, ac dangos sut y bydd o fydd i bobl ac yn cefnogi artistiaid hefyd. Da ni eisiau gweld prosiectau sy'n fywiog yn artistig ac yn berthnasol i'r blaenoriaethau iechyd a gofal cymdeithasol. Da chi wedi adnabod yn barod. Drwy weithio gyda partner celfyddydol, da ni angen clywed am y cynnig celfyddydol ei hun a sut gall y weithgaredd helpu wella neu leddfu'r her iechyd. Yn eich cais, da ni angen i chi gynnwys digon o wybodaeth am y ffurf celfyddyd, efallai rhannu awgrymiadau o'r mathau weithgaredd, enwi artistiaid arfaethedig, rhannu amserlen y prosiect ac yn y blaen. Ac ella fi mach o wybodaeth ymarferol o sut mae'r weithgaredd am edrych, be cynlluniau chi ynglyn â ynglyn â efallai sut ydych chi'n rheoli'r prosiect a elfennau o gefnogi'r artistiaid hefyd. Da ni eisiau gweld prosiectau sydd efo'r cyfle gorau i ymsefydlu a bod yn gyniladwy. Eto drwy weithio mewn partneriaeth a chynnig cynllun gwerthuso manwl. Mae Dan wedi sôn am hynny'n barod. Da ni eisiau gweld prosiectau sydd yn gwneud gwahaniaeth i'r cyfranogwyr, y cleifion a'r staff gofal iechyd sy'n ymwneud â nhw, ac hefyd sy'n cynnig datblygiad proffesiynol a cyfleon i artistiaid proffesiynol. Eto, mae angen dangos bod angen am y prosiect a bod y prosiectau'n ceisio ymyrryd mewn ffordd y fyddai'n atal salwch ac arbed costau hir dymor. Bydd rhai prosiectau gyda 2 nod sef gwella iechyd a lles bobl ac yn cryfhau cysylltiad cyfranogwr a byd natur drwy greadigrwydd. Mae'r rhain yn benodol ar gyfer prosiectau sydd gyda partner natur ynghlwm. Da ni hefyd yn ymwybodol iawn bod ni eisiau cyrraedd gymaint o bobl a phosib o fewn y cymunedau. Felly mae prosiectau sy'n dod o'r celfyddydau diwylliant i bobl na fyddent fel arall yn ymgysylltu oherwydd rhwystra iechyd neu eraill yn cael y cyfle. Da ni angen gweld bod prosiectau celfyddydau iechyd a lles yn cyrraedd ystod eang o bobl. Mae tystiolaeth yn dangos bod anghyfiawnder iechyd yn drwch yn eu cymunedau ymylol a mwyaf bregus, a rhai nad oes ganddynt unrhyw gysylltiad rheolaidd â'r celfyddydau. Da ni am adeiladu ar hyn a cael ystod ehangach fwy amrywiol fyth o bobl i brofi manteision y celfyddydau. Sut da ni'n wneud hyn? Wel, eto, drwy weithio mewn partneriaeth. Gweithio efo yr sefydliadau hynny sy'n gweithio'n glos gyda'r cymunedau, sy'n adnabod eu cymunedau, ac sydd yn gallu cyfeirio neu dargedu'r cyfranogwyr dan sylw. Felly mae'n bwysig garu gyda'r sefydliadau hynny sy'n ffitio'r gofynion ac sydd wir yn gallu cyfoethogi'r prosiect a'r allbennau. Felly dwi'n gobeithio bod hyn wedi rhoi chydig o glanhad i chi o beth da ni'n disgwyl yn hyn mewn cais cry, ond fel da ni wedi sôn yn barod, dowch am sgwrs ato ni. Da ni wastad yn helpu wrando ac i drio trafod syniadau efo chi. So, na i basio ymlaen i'r Elinoria, sy'n nesa?
Diolch, Kerry. Pnawn da, enw fi yw Eleanor. I'm the Arts Enabler for the team, and I'll be going through some of the top tips for applying to the fund. So to start off with, we really encourage everyone to read the guidelines, both the general lottery guidelines we have on our funding page. This covers what we can fund through lottery money, as well as the specific arts, health and wellbeing lottery guidelines, which is very specific to the fund. And then next is the budget. A lot of people have issues when filling in the budget template. As has been mentioned in the previous slides, we have specific criteria such as 10% allocation to the evaluation, and also then having the correct match funding percentage, depending on which level of the fund you would like to apply to. It's also really important to have the breakdown of the figures in the budget template to list the artist kind of daily rates or any evaluator fees listed to make it clear. We really encourage everyone to join Whoon. It's free to join, and they've got a load of resources on their website, and as well as case studies, which shows a lot of the projects which have been funded through the Arts, Health and Wellbeing Lottery Fund on there. So it's really useful, and I think Angela's already linked those in the chat. And also, it's important to make sure you're ready to apply to the fund. Please don't try and rush to make the next deadline if you aren't ready. Establishing partnerships can take some time, and the fund opens 3 times a year, so there's always the opportunity of the next round. It's really important to answer the application questions in plain language. There are word limits on each question, so being concise is always best. And finally, if you want to speak to us about the project, please contact us if you have any questions at all, and you can speak to a member of the team about the project. So we've linked some resources on this page, which we will share the slides after the webinar. So as I've mentioned, there's a link to the general guidelines, as the Arts, Health and Wellbeing guidelines. The Whoon case studies are really useful to look at those to see what are the projects which have happened before. Rosie has talked about the HARP project, and all the resources are still on our website if you want to have a look at those. And then more generally, we've got the National Centre for Creative Health. They've got lots of resources on their website, and also the Creative Health Quality Framework, which I'll talk about a bit on the next slide. So it's really good to have a look at approach your project through the lens of creative health, the creative health quality principles. So I'll go through these quickly, but I know we're behind, so I won't go into too much detail. Person-centered, it's important to have a project that involves and supports people with lived experience in the development and delivery of the work. Equitable, find out about local health needs, priorities and inequalities, and develop work in response to these needs. Safe, think about the impact that the work may have on those delivering it, and ensure that policies, procedures and practical support is in place to ensure safety, and hopefully you can identify appropriate budget towards that as well. That's really important. Creative, that's an obvious one. Collaborative, obviously the fund involves, cross collaboration across different sectors, health and the arts. Realistic, allowing sufficient time for the work at all stages, ideas development and testing, partnership building, participant recruitment and evaluation. Being reflective, don't wait until the end to plan and budget for the evaluation. The evaluation is a big part of the project. And finally, being sustainable, so working towards a positive long-term legacy for people and planet, and making sure resources needed for the sustainable long-term running of the organisation are built into the project funding bids. So finally, the next steps. If you would like to get in touch with us, we've got the details of our mailbox here on the slide. If you would like to have a conversation, if you can include all the details that are included, so location of where the project will hopefully take place, who the arts and health and nature partner organisations are, what art forms your project is likely to include, the level of funding you wish to apply for, the health challenge you wish to address, and a brief description of the activity. So application support can be arranged prior to the round opening. However, due to capacity, we can't take any new inquiries in the last 2 weeks before the deadline. So in this round, the cut-off point will be the 13th of May. And there are a few bank holidays in that time as well. So make sure to get in contact with us in plenty of time. And also just to note, if you haven't got a profile with Arts Council portal, it does take up to 5 days to be verified. So please do this in plenty of time before the deadline. Thank you.